there's lots of people who channel many things, and most of the time they don't know who they are channeling. I don't say that it is wrong. There is many wonderful beings, who do knows what they are talking about, but in the bazaar of spirituality, in this marketplace, you find a lot of who doesn't, who just tell stories, and that's sadly a lot of them, because they have not yet conquered the mind, and yet they want to help others. They want to give advice to others, and this is very dangerous. It's not only dangerous for the person which is receiving the advice, but it's also dangerous for the person which is giving the advice. Because when you give an advice to somebody, you are taking a responsibility, and karmically, that responsibility is far more heavier. You can't carry that weight. You understand? But very often people are not aware of that mindset. That's what I was just talking about, silent of the mind. Silent of the mind, like explain, again, within that explanation, I said silent of the mind is not an emptiness, but is the conversation between you and God. Okay? And that relationship between you and God is between you and Him. It's not somebody else. God doesn't have time to gossip about anybody else with you. No, but it's true. But do you think He have time to gossip about, sit there and talk about your neighbor? No, He don't. You see, if you will ask Him something, of course He will give you an advice for that person, yes, if you're in connection with Him. But He don't sit there and tell you the life story of your neighbor. Have many of them say what they have drink, what they have talk, what this and that. No, God doesn't do that. And someone have not yet conquered the mind, like I said, you see, if you see often these people, they themselves have so much, they have not yet connect themselves with God, but yet they are giving advice to people. Where would they lead them? As they fall, they will carry the people with them. That's what Jesus said in the Bible also. There's a wonderful thing He said. Many will use my name, but in the time of judgment I will say I don't know them. No. So this channeling, you should be careful on that, because in the esoteric world, in the etheric level, there is so many entities who take so many names, and most of the time they take the common name which people are used to. Because these etheric beings, you see, they themselves are trapped into that world. How they get their power? Through using channel. And people, of course, like to hear what they want to hear. People like that. You tell somebody the truth, they don't want to hear the truth. But you tell somebody, come and tell you stories about your past life, or about this fancy things and that fancy thing. Of course, it's wonderful to hear, and it's very interesting. Then what happened? Then you start to follow this, and then finish. But the reality which awake inside of you, no one can take that. Your own reality, your own relationship between you and God, that no one can change that. And that is your reality. That's the reality. If something vary and change, it is through limitation. But the Supreme is not limited by anything. And He don't change like with your mood. If you like somebody, you tell the person nice thing. You don't like somebody, you tell somebody something not nice. But that Supreme reality which is inside of you, that divine reality inside of you, that doesn't change like this. There is this saying in the Gita which said, peace lies with those who is dear to me. It is very deep because you see, that peace which reside with a true bhakta, it's a peace which can influence others, can be given to others, but not through words, by the being itself. And that peace reflect who you are, your whole being. And that peace which reside inside of you, it free others also. Those which is liberated, liberate somebody else. You know, like I was telling a story. Once there was a very great scholar, very learned man, and he had a son, he had his wife, and he was so talented in his wisdom, but even the king will visit him. So the king would take counsel to him. As he was very dear to the king would favor him, would consult him for everything. So as time was going, the king started realizing he's such a great scholar. For sure, somebody which is great scholar can free somebody, isn't it? Yes or no? No. Then the king said, you see, King Parikshit, Sukadev Goswami in the Bhagavatam was freed, was liberated in 7 days of listening to the Bhagavatam. Only 7 days. He listened to the glory of the Lord. He was free after 7 days. He attained the supreme abode of the Lord. So the king called his scholar and said, listen, Sukadev gave the king, Sukadev gave King Parikshit liberation in 7 days. You are such a great scholar. I'll give you 1 month to give me, to liberate me. He didn't say anything. He went home. He was worried. You know, he, like I said earlier, he had a son. And of course, being near to the king, your pride and ego also rise. So he had a son. His son, he didn't even care too much, you know. He was just treating him like a good for nothing. And he didn't give much interest to him. The son also will not stay at home. The son, whenever they never sit at home to eat anything. So the son will come only for lunch and dinner at home. And the rest he will go away outside. So what he will do, he will go to ashrams and spend his time in the ashram among the sadhus and the saints. So that day when the father came home, coincidentally, Olfri was sitting there. And as he was sitting, the father was a bit grumpy. The son asked the father, "What's wrong with you?" And he didn't want to answer the son. He said to his son, "Shut up, you are useless, nothing. You can." So then the mother told the son what happened. So the son came to the father afterwards and said to the father, "Father, listen. Don't worry. Tell the king, take me as his guru." And the father was thinking, what would the king do about this? You're such an idiot yourself. Maybe you have a good, do you have a trick, a plan behind? So let's see. Within 1 month we can figure it out. And the next day he went to the king and said, King, listen, you have to take my son as your guru. The king, because he respected the scholar so nicely, so wise, he's so knowledgeable. So he said he agreed what the scholar was saying, and he take initiation to his new guru. So as the son initiated him, so the son said to him, now that you are my disciple, you have to sit there. The king accepted to sit down. Of course, everybody was, shocked. But as it's our tradition, when the guru is there, even the king have to sit down. So he sat down, and the king asked, said, Gurudev, please instruct me. And of course the father was there also, was wondering what the son will say. So the son said, bring me 2 ropes. And the father started getting worried and nervous, said, hope he don't tie the king. As he was thinking about that, the son said, tie the king to the pillar. And as it is an order from the guru, they have to follow it. So the king was tied to the pillar. And the second, he said, tied my father to the other pillar. The both of them were tied to the pillar. The father was grumpy and was, regretting himself why he have listened to his son. So with a big smile, the son said to the father, Father, can you untie the king now? And the father starts screaming, how can I untie the king? I am tied myself to the pillar. So the king understand what the guru was saying. And he said, do you understand what it is? What does that mean? So the father was tied to the pillar. How can he untie somebody else? Those which is surrender, they are the only one who can free somebody else. But those which is attached themselves to Maya, how can they free somebody else? They can't. So the same thing, most of the people which give advice or messages or the stuff, they themselves are fully attached to Maya. They can't free anybody. And for sure, they are just after your money, nothing else. Telling you nice stories and so on.